Hello and welcome to Truck Stop Murder and True Crime Pod, where I'm your host Gary Howard will take you on an adventure from truck stop to truck stop and where I stopped at and the craziness where I found around there. And this week brings me on to January 11th, 2020 in at a Road Ranger in Princeton, Illinois. Actually, I had to stop there due to weather. We had a big snowstorm that had came through and the roads was just too bad, so I had to find me a place to stop en route to Colorado. So I ended up stopping there, which was not a bad place to stop at. There was plenty of parking lot, unlike the last couple truck stops I stayed at where there were dirt. This was actually a paved one. It wasn't clean from snow, but I'm not complaining. And it's right there off of I-80 in Princeton, Iowa. And it's not too bad. Run Ranger 225. And lots of spots, even right now where I'm recording. It's pretty late at night. There's still lots of spots on there. A lot of people like it. It's about a few hours west on I-80, leaving Chicago en route to Iowa. And I was looking at the reviews. This pretty much everybody likes it. Always plenty of room to park. Deli counter, of course, is never open. A lot of places. The second review's 2-star. But they're just bitching about not keeping the same problem because the gaps, because the road's icy. I mean, they can't keep it clean right after the snow falls, of course. But people go on bitch regardless. As for food, you do have the restaurant side was closed, but you do have a Subway, you have a Wendy's, you have McDonald's, Big Apple Family Restaurant, Burger King, and a Walmart Supercenter, all within half a mile. So if you don't mind walking, which I know since I became a truck driver, I sure do a little walking myself. They're all within there. So that's where I was at. And while I was there, I found this lovely case of, let's see what his name may be. Then the killer up is Robert Dale Conklin. Yep. Now, he didn't actually do the crime here. He actually did a crime in Georgia. But because of what he did here in Princeton is the reason why what made him do what he did in Georgia. He was actually at one time of his life, he was actually caught burglarizing the house for armed robbery. I think it was a house. I couldn't really find much information on the individual, which like last week really wanted me to dive into it since it's virgin territory and we all like them virgins, of course. But this one, hopefully I'm going to try the next week will be better. Try to find some more information, but I wanted to do this one. This was it's a funny case just filled with craziness, and I wanted to do an intro on this, but I didn't do it. But it all started off at rest areas, skate lovers, plastic bags, and garbage disposals. But I will get into that. So let's see what happened here in Georgia. So on March 28th, 1984, a maintenance man employed at the Conklin, the person at his apartment complex, was collecting aluminum cans from the trash dumpsters when he discovered dissected human body parts, knives, bloody bedclothes, screwdriver, rope, credit cards, a wallet, and miscellaneous paperwork belonging to George Crooks. All were in black plastic bags. The body parts were identified as those of the attorney George Crook, who was acquainted with this guy Conklin. They actually had a physical relationship together. You know, they didn't live together, but they did have that kind of on and off relationship where they hung out. So once they found the body, once they really knew who this individual was, they started looking at his past, and they found out about the relationship, where they went knocking on his door, Robert Dale Conklin, and found out he wasn't home. So somehow during this time, they ended up getting a judge to sign a search warrant for this place, where they did find physical evidence, where they did find, let's see, what did they find in his apartment, where the police found bed clothing was missing, which they found in a trash can, and the mattress appeared to be blood soaked. Of course, the jam kitchen garbage disposal contained what appeared to be eternal organs. So they couldn't find him. So once they did find him, this is when he came up with this crazy story. So they found him. He actually, right after that happened, I mean, I'll get in the story. Just here you go. Here's the once they found him and they arrested him. This is the report that he gave, this confession he gave, and I'll read the confession from how he put it. These are his words. All right, so bear with me. He goes, I first met George Crooks at a rest stop off I-20 in Douglasville over a period of time, which the rest area. Come to find out, this is a place where a bunch of gay guys used to hang out for little affairs. So if they want to get their, little clean ween, little dirty, they'll head to this rest area. As then come and say all these clean weens. But over a period of time, they established a relationship. This is his words, not me. So it may sound like I'm talking, but this is the confession that he had made. Let's start over again. I first met George Crooks at a rest stop off I-20 by Douglasville. Over a period of time, we established a relationship. We could see each other. We seen each other about 3. Let me start again. I'm motherfucker. Me. We would see each other every couple of 3 weeks. I moved out of my apartment to Conklin Road. Every now and then he would come over and spend the night, or I would go over to his house and spend the night. He would usually get high, have sex, and go to sleep. So on a Monday night, he came over. We got stoned. He didn't drink though. He was I guess he was an alcoholic. So he had to go to Alcoholics Anonymous and stuff like that, and would not drink. But he did get high. So they got to smoking pot. Later on that evening, we went on and went to bed. I wanted to go to sleep. He wanted to play. He kept messing with me, and it turned into a wrestling match. So I got tired of it, told him to quit, and he wouldn't. This went on for quite a while. I'm reading all this because I know you're probably saying, why is he reading this whole confession? Because this the way he reacted. Once he got into it, you would clearly see that this man had no dismount plan. This guy had no idea what to do, and I don't know. Just that he was not ready. There were so many mishaps and there were so mess ups. This dude, it was a spur of the moment thing, and he was so confused. He wasn't. Yeah, hopefully this gives you not on the expense of the victim, of course, but his stupidity. Give you a good laugh. So an hour into it and a half, I guess at this point I was getting pretty mad because he would not leave me alone. So eventually he had me pinned to the bed, I'll stop that. Sitting on my stomach. I was wrestling, trying to get free. I was mad, but thought it was all a big joke. Eventually I got an arm free. I did hit him and hit him back, and he was still sitting on me. So this dude was a big one. We were there struggling. I reached over and grabbed a screwdriver. I swung the screwdriver and struck him. He rolled off the bed. I followed him with the screwdriver in hand and held him down. I struck the screwdriver in his ear. I wiggled it around and realized what I have done and got scared. So I went ahead and got a blanket and I tried to stop him from bleeding, but I think he was already dead. So I wrapped him up in the blanket, drug him into the bathroom since he was bleeding. Here's where the story really gets crazy right here. He goes, I tried to put him in the bathtub, but I couldn't because he was just too heavy. Big guy. And the shower curtain was in the way. Them damn shower curtains trying to get rid of a body and just in the way. Everything in the way. Big heavy guy, shower curtain in the way. And I went ahead and got a screwdriver downstairs, took the shower curtain down. I was able to go 560, or I was able to go ahead and get his body into the bathtub, and he was still bleeding. So at this point, I panicked. There was blood all over the place. I think it was on the sheets. I'm pretty sure the blankets, walls, all over the bathroom. At this point, I stopped and tried to think about what to do. He did not know what to do. I came to the conclusion that since I was on parole, back to what I was telling you about, where he was on parole in Princeton, Illinois already for burglary. So I said at this point, he probably could have, if this is all true, he could have, self-defense and everything like that. and seen what happened. But he was so afraid because of that, and probably because being a homosexual man, he probably think the law would not look in favor to his case, which is, I don't know. But it wouldn't be his best interest to get caught and have discovered that he had killed somebody, even though it might have been self-defense. So I decided I had to get rid of the body some way. I couldn't move it because he was too big, again, too heavy. So I thought I let the blood drain. So he just stuck him, and it was hoping that the body was just going, all the blood was going to drain. But I guess he really didn't think about the fluids and muscles and all that stuff. Is also weight. So I went ahead and got a steak knife from the downstairs and tried to cut his throat and bleed him into the bathtub. Which I'm not going to go too much into. You know, that's as far as I'm going to go. We got into that part where he had cut him up and everything, and so he couldn't pick him up and carry him again because, like I say, he was too big. It's so involved everyone. So I decided to get rid of the body somehow and get rid of his car, his possessions, and everything. By now, it was Tuesday morning. I didn't know what to do, so I went ahead and took his keys and his wallet on his face card, which I'm guessing is like a food card down there. I couldn't find nothing about it. It's like a food card or a debit card, but it's called an honest face card. And I got in his car. I then went ahead and went to the apartment so I could get anything there that could connect me with him. So this is his apartment, so he's getting rid of all his stuff. I took a card with my name and number on it and the tape of his answering machine, and then put another fresh tape in. Since I had his honest face card and his checkbook, I drove around to several grocery stores and started getting cleaning supplies. The ideal was to get cleaning supplies and the stuff to furnish the cleaning up to the place at the apartment. While doing this, I realized there's no way I could get rid of the body because I couldn't pick him up, because again, he's just a big guy. He did not plan this out. Makes me wonder if it really was self-defense, or if it wasn't self-defense, that this guy just don't have no clue. He's just that dumb. So I thought that if I would cut him in half, I would put him in a couple of garbage bags, and then I would remove him from the apartment. I also bought some other things, food, knives, and other things. I wrote some checks. After I did this, I bought all the stuff back to the apartment. He still was no lighter than he was even after bleeding all that amount of time. So I used a knife to go ahead and cut his throat some more. It was a lot sharper knife than I realized. I had to get rid. Let's start again. I realized I had to get rid of his car somehow, so I drove it downtown. On the way downtown, it ran out of gas. Go figure. So I pushed it in the parking lot. I think it was Sears and Buckhead. I wiped it down and took everything out of it. Tried to catch a bus back to where I live. Caught the wrong bus. This guy on the wrong road. I was on Pace's Ferry Road, so I rode the bus to Pace Ferry Crossing, and I caught a cab back to the apartment. When I got there, I went ahead and went to work. So he back to work by cutting him in half, so I get rid of him there. While this is going on, he's cutting him off, putting him in bags and stuff like that. By that time, before he even get all this done, he got a phone call from some friends of his in the neighborhood, and he said that they were going to stop by, since normally I would tell him come on over. So I told him coming over. It didn't say the names on it, but he said these people came over. This guy, I'll say Dan and Mary. So it was Dan and Mary and his Dan. No, it was Dan Martin and his wife. So Dan and his wife. I cleaned up everything downstairs before they got over. So this body's upstairs. So all I had to go is upstairs. So between 3 o'clock and 5 a.m. the evening, I had gone to a meeting for work. I was gone for a couple hours, and then he came over about 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or something like that. Shortly after there, some more friends showed up, and they sat around and drank beers while I smoked some weed. After they left, he went back upstairs, finished putting everything in a bag. I found I couldn't carry all the bags, so I went to Kmart and bought some more garbage. I bought a garbage can. So this guy's just marking himself all over the place. He ain't really realizing that maybe people might have seen him with their known accomplices, and knowing that, he just put him, I don't know if he was using cards, but I guess he was using the cards. So he's putting out there all they got to do is surveillance. And this was the time of a lot of surveillance. So there's cameras everywhere. So, where was I? So he went back to get a garbage can. I thought it was also handy. I bought a push cart so I could move him the can. So I went ahead and filled the garbage can with the bags and moved them to the garbage. And I left some of the bags with George. I guess that's his name. It sounded weird at first. And for outside later on that night, it started to rain. So I went ahead and tucked the trash can with the cart, took it to the dumpster, unloaded all the bags. Before I did this, I cleaned up the bathroom, all the sheets, blankets, and stuffed in the trash can. So that's how they found it earlier. I don't remember if it took 2 or 3 trips, but at least 2 trips. So he's taking all these body parts and put it in the trash can. That's why they're able to find it. I knew it took 2 trips out there. I went back. He cleaned up the apartment, blood, everything. Eventually, he fell asleep on the couch. He woke up the next day, and he had to go to work. He had to continue with his life to make sure so nobody knew what was going on. So he went ahead and took a shower, got ready for work, and he was running late. So I didn't finish cleaning up everything. I went to my car, got into the car, and drove around the building, and the way I usually go. But when I turned the corner, he said he noticed the tape around the road. People were digging stuff out of the dumpster, so he was on. They figured out what happened. They found the body. The guy who was looking for, so he didn't know if they connected him with you. He don't know nothing. As you could tell, he didn't plan this through, no dismount. So he, panic mode, started freaking out. Push the panic button. So I decided it would be my best interest not to be around. So instead of going to work, I went ahead, which is another wrong. He just got to continue his day. But he decided to drive around to figure out things out. While he decided to do this, it was a good idea not to go back to his apartment unless I knew for sure that I was a suspect. So I decided it would be the best I left all together and assumed that. Assumed that he was a suspect otherwise. I went ahead and got all my money out of the bank, red flag, account, on my bank card. Then I went to downtown, parked my car in a Holiday Inn, and wandered around town. I checked the bus station, eventually decided to buy a ticket to Miami. Why not? Let's just get out of town. After I had been in Miami for a couple days, it was about 2 days, I decided, well, according to him, this is his statement, so he decided it would not be, it was not where I wanted to be, so he hitchhiked back to Atlanta, where he found out that he was being sought after, of course. So he had no place to go, so he was broke and hungry. He went back to his apartment, where he found the police had already been, of course. I stayed there anyways because I didn't have anywhere else to go until Monday. It was last night, Saturday night, I was discovered and they chased them down. I keep saying I and him, so I'll stop that. I'm about to stop his confession. It's almost over with. I didn't get to take anything, but so he just ran in. They saw he was there because of course, they're monitoring the place. Make sure he's coming because they're looking for him because all his money was in his bank. All the red flags is already up. They found his body parts at his apartment complex. He's gone. They're known as the accomplices. And all of a sudden he disappears right afterwards and all his money's out of his bank. I mean, why wouldn't they be looking for him? So they chased him. So he went back to his apartment and stuff. He was not able to get nothing. So he went back to his apartment to get more stuff that he had left. It wasn't there, so he went ahead and got what he could and decided to catch a bus downtown. And on the way to the bus, he got caught, and there he is. So his confession pretty much states in the long run that his friend came over, and in that confession, which I think I'll bring up later on, that the good lawyer was actually... He had just came back from it too, so he was pretty already buzzed up from pain medication as it was. So he was kind of buzzed, and I guess he wanted some, and Robert Conklin just wanted to go to sleep. But this man did not want to. He wanted to play, and it wasn't playtime. Hello, I am back. You probably didn't hear the mishap, but I'm My computer's been giving me a little issue, so if you hear a little gap in it or I might be repeating myself, I do apologize. But I'm going to try to get this out before tonight and have an early morning. But anyhow, back to what I was saying, it was not playtime for him, so I don't know if I said this, but during the trial, the courtroom, number of slides of photographs were taken during the autopsy out of the presence of the jury. The issues was their admissible was addressed, but all but one was excluded, irrelevant to the case. Which, when the jury was brought back in, the doctor was asked to put on, and the wrong picture was shown. So when the jury came back and they said present the photo, the machine was turned off right away, and the jury was sent back out of the room. The record shows that all the slides had been removed from the machine except the two, which they thought it was the one. The one that had been ruled admissible, and the one which showed the top of the victim's head with the scalp pulled back. The later photograph was displayed for 3 to 4 seconds. No testimony was presented on the photograph, so with that, Conklin's attorney moved for a mistrial on that, finding as a fact the display was accidental and expressed doubt of the jury's knew the photograph what it portrayed, like he was the monster, that contrary to his defense, and they just said it wasn't admissible, which I think it probably should have been added to it. So the expert explained it. Defense counsel asked the court to under the instruction. It was not given male, whatever. So they found out that it was not admissible, of course, so they just let it go. So at the guilt phase, the state argued, as the evidence pointed out, I think he's a male prostitute on top of it. Back to the truck stop where he met up with them at the rest area. I mean, not truck stop. Conklin moved for a mistrial, was in place and was denied. Incomplete. No corrective instructions was sought of given. Conklin argues that the state improperly expressed a personal opinion not supported by evidence because the male prostitute. Despite the portion of the state's argument can most reasonably be interpreted at an attempt to draw an interference with the evidence and not the state's opinion on personal knowledge of matters and not an evidence, which was all wrong. And him being homosexual was not relevant to the case from the victim. These facts were, of course, omitted in order to explain his conduct as a part of his theory of justification and serious trying to explain himself. And none of that worked. So when the jury came back with guilty, of course, and the death penalty can be posed if the jury finds existence of least one of 10 of these things. The offense of one of the 10s, here's some of them. The offense of murder with outrageously and wantonly vile, horrible, and inhuman, and that involved aggravated battery to the victim, torture to the victim, and or depravity of mind of defendant. The evidence must be sufficient to satisfy the first major, those are just some of them, component, the statutory aggravation circumstance, at least one of them had to be. So he argues to the trial court erred by failing to give instruction clarifying the meaning of these things. So they define outrageously or meaningly, wantonly, vile, horrible, and inhumane. However, we have held these words are subject to common understanding and need no clarifications. So they said we don't have to explain that. It's pretty common sense. He's outrageously, wantonly, vile, horrible, inhumane. Pretty self-explanatory, wouldn't you think? Conklin also argues that even if post-mortem modification of a body shows depravity of mind, it is insufficient to support the finding that the offense of murder was outrageously and wantonly and vile. So they're saying there's no way to prove that. We can argue that they cannot argue that the offense of murder terminates the instant death. So nothing that happens afterwards can be considered in determining whether the offense of murder is outrageously and wantonly vile or horrible and inhumane. So he's trying to say there's no way you could prove that without a doubt. Conklin further argues that in order finding his statutory aggravation, so back to the benefit of back to the same thing I've been talked about. So over objection, the death certificate prepared was admitted evidence with certain portions deleted. It stated that part of the immediate cause of death was stab wounds to the neck and chest, with the sufficient conditions being head neck trauma. Conklin, the scientific reports state that not furnished defense despite timely matter request. So, with all that being said, what ended up happening to him, he ended up getting found guilty, given a death sentence, where they went through all his appeals, where they were all failed. He did not make it, and the lovely state of Georgia decided to execute Mr. Robert Dale Conklin. So the trial was in 1984. Let's get a breakdown of this. So the grand jury indicted Conklin on April 3rd, 1984. The grand jury found Conklin guilty of malice murder June 15th, 1984. Jury's recommendation of a death sentence was returned on June 16th, 1984. Courts of direct appeals from 85 to 86. Georgia Supreme Court affirmed conviction. Says, you, sir, you are still going to die. The evidence is applied sufficient to the court conviction of malice murder. Conklin also motion to reconsideration was denied on July 23rd, 1985. Conklin filed another petition, of course, with state habeas corpus petition between 86 and 94, where his petition for right another habeas corpus, which was all denied. Federal habeas corpus from 95 to 2001 was denied. Filed a petition, all this habeas corpus 2000, 2004, 2003. Grant the extension to certification application. The case was agreed on. So Georgia man was on comes Tuesday, July 12th, 2005, 8:34 p.m. was his execution day. So let's see what happened. So his last meal. Let's talk about it. Right before death, he decided. His last meal wasn't too bad. I think so. I think I would pick it. Filet mignon, wrapped with bacon, deveined shrimp sautéed in garlic butter, with lemon, baked potato with butter, sour cream, chives, real bacon bits, not that fake shit, gotta be real, corn on the cob, asparagus with holiday sauce, French bread with butter, goat cheese, cantaloupe, apple pie, vanilla bean, ice cream, and iced tea. So, he enjoyed his last meal. So, the man stabbed, here's what they say, what the Jackson News said. Jackson, Georgia News said. A man who stabbed his gay lover to death with a screwdriver and dismembered the remains was executed on Tuesday in Georgia after courts rejected his last-minute appeals. Robert Dale Conklin, 44, was put to death by lethal injection at the state prison in Jackson. So, and that's about 50 if you're ever in town. In Jackson, it's about 50 miles south of Atlanta. He died at 7:44 p.m. Good riddance to you. And he denied to make a final statement, but he did ask for a prayer. So his final words was, Amen. And there you have it. There is the story of Robert Dale Conklin when I was over at the Road Ranger in Princeton, Illinois. Sorry, so choppy, but the story kind of in and out, reading blah blah. But it was a pretty long week this week. I had to run a lot of hours and stuff like that. I do try my best on my research, but some weeks I just don't have the time because I do 11-hour to 14-hour shifts a day. And because normally a lot of people are like, well, why do you do this? Because this I enjoy telling stories. I'm by myself pretty much all the time, so this is my point, my interaction with somebody. I'm hoping one day I do get a co-host that I can share this with, and maybe with the interaction of someone else who gets into true crime as much as I do. Eventually, hopefully one day that I'll be able to do my family members and my family members and my wife's family members, if I could talk her to let me do it. And her name, Desiree Glover. She told me not to say, but she's the one who's the love of my life who got me into this. If you are on Facebook, why don't you give her a shout out and say, hey, how you doing? But anyhow, if you cared about this, what I said, or bared through it, or willing to give me a chance, why don't you head on over to the Apple iPods, what James and Jimmy calls the purple icon. Rate, review, and subscribe. Please be nice. This is my beginning ones. Or any podcast you listen to. You could come and join us on my Facebook page, Truck Stop Murder, or my Instagram at Truck Stop Murder. Or you can follow me either at Gary Howard or Gary.Howard5 on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you like what you heard, thank you. I appreciate it. And while I'm doing this, I want to give out, I haven't did this, but I decided I want to give out some special thanks to some people, entitled to so. First of all, I want to thank my wife for making this possible and encouraging me to do so. To make this podcast, I also want to thank James Petrogallo and Jamie Wisman of Small Town Murder and Crime and Sports for really motivating me, inspiring me to do this podcast. If it wasn't for them shows, I don't think there would be not this show. And if you like true crime, you try to listen to them. Also, I would like to give a great thanks to Dan Cummins of Time Sucks, Scared to Death podcast. And another one I believe is coming out soon. He's another person that really motivated me. And all my people on my Facebook page at Truck Stop Murder. But yeah, them 3 podcasters. And of course, I can't forget Barney and Tara from Bloody Murder. They really, these are just, I'm saying these podcasts because they really inspired me. So if you like true crime or anything like that, give Barney and Tara a Bloody Murder. And of course, their friend Cambo on True Crime Island. These are all podcasts I listened to that really motivated me to start mine. And so I will see you next week. I will try to get it out next Friday. Well, I'll drop this on Thursday. So on Castbox, you'll get it on Thursday. And everywhere else on Friday. So, Sergeant Awesome out.